The plasma bolt missed my head by centimeters. I felt the heat sear past my ear as I dove behind the command console, my heart hammering against my ribs. The alien ship's bridge was a maze of twisted metal and flickering screens, half the systems dead from the attack that had torn through our fleet minutes ago. I was alone. Everyone else was dead or dying in the corridors below. Human. The voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. I froze. That voice didn't belong to the enemy soldiers hunting me through the wreckage. It was too calm, too precise, too cold. I turned my head slowly and saw her standing in the doorway I'd just come through. Queen Commander Velshara of the Crithian Dominion, 7 feet of chitinous armor, 4 arms folded in a posture that somehow conveyed both patience and absolute certainty. Her compound eyes reflected the emergency lighting in 1,000 fractured points of amber. She was supposed to be 3 decks down in the secure chamber. "Why are you here?" I managed, my voice steadier than I expected. "The same reason you are, Guardsman Chen." She stepped onto the bridge, her movements unnervingly fluid. Survival. Another plasma bolt screamed past, and I heard the enemy soldiers shouting in their guttural language. They'd found us. I raised my rifle, but Velshara made a sharp clicking sound that stopped me cold. "Lower your weapon, Commander there." "I am aware." She moved past me as if the incoming fire didn't exist, her primary hands clasped behind her back. "You have been assigned to my guard detail for 6 hours. In that time you have maintained protocol, asked no questions, and exhibited acceptable competence. Now you will exhibit exceptional competence." I stared at her. The ship was dying around us. The enemy was closing in, and she was critiquing my performance review. "Commander, What we need, Guardsmen, is to survive the next 4 minutes." She reached the main tactical display with one elegant hand. "The enemy believes they have disabled our command systems. They are incorrect. However, their error will only persist if they continue to believe I am trapped below. You will ensure they maintain this belief." "How?" For the first time, her eyes fixed directly on me, not scanning, not assessing, looking into me, by being terrifying. Before I could respond, she activated something on the console. The bridge lights died completely. Emergency power rerouted. I heard the enemy soldiers pause their advance, confused by the sudden darkness. Then Velshara's hand touched my shoulder, and I nearly screamed. Her touch was cold. Not temperature cold. Cold like the void between stars. "Listen carefully," she whispered, her voice now inches from my ear. "In 8 seconds, the auxiliary power will reignite. When it does, you will see me standing in the center of the bridge. You will fire 3 rounds into the ceiling above the eastern entrance. You will not ask why. You will not hesitate. You will trust that I understand these enemies far better than you." "Commander, 5 seconds. They are listening to us breathe, Guardsman Chen. They are calculating our fear. Give them uncertainty instead." The lights blazed back to life. Velshara stood exactly where she'd said, perfectly still in the center of the bridge. I didn't think. I fired 3 times into the ceiling. Metal shrieked. Sparks rained down. The enemy soldiers shouted in alarm, and I heard them scrambling back. Again, Velshara said calmly, "Eastern Corridor Junction. 4 rounds. High angle." I fired. This time I heard screaming.
"Not pain."
"They believe the bridge defenses are active," she explained, still motionless. "Their intelligence indicated these systems were offline."
"You have created doubt. Doubt creates hesitation."
"Hesitation creates opportunity." "For what?" "For me to do what I do best, Guardsman." She finally moved, gliding toward the viewport overlooking the damage. "Which is winning wars through economy of violence." She tapped something on her wrist. The ship shuddered. Through the viewport, I saw escape pods launching from the lower decks. At least 40 of them. "The survivors," I breathed. "Correct. I delayed their evacuation until the enemy committed their boarding parties deep into our vessel. Now those parties are trapped. The pods will rendezvous with our recovery fleet in approximately 12 minutes. But we're still here. We are." She turned back to me, and something in her posture had changed. Relaxed wasn't the right word. Prepared. Because you and I, Guardsman Chen, are going to ensure the enemy believes this ship is still worth capturing. We are going to make them think I am still trying to fight my way out. We are going to cost them precious time while our people escape." My mouth went dry. "That's a suicide mission." "No." Her head tilted slightly. "It is a mission with acceptable risk, executed by individuals with exceptional training. You were selected for my guard detail not because of your marksmanship, though it is adequate. Not because of your loyalty, though it is evident. You were selected because your psychological profile indicated you could function under extreme stress without breaking protocol. I'm about to break protocol right now if you don't tell me the plan. For the first time, I saw something almost like approval in those alien eyes. There it is, she said softly. The moment every royal guard experiences. The moment they stop seeing me as a commander and start seeing me as something else entirely. What's that? She moved toward me again, and every instinct screamed to step back. I held my ground. A predator, she whispered. Who has chosen to hunt on your behalf? The enemy soldiers breached the eastern entrance. Velshara's secondary hands blurred into motion. I understood why they called her terrifying. The first soldier died before he finished stepping through the doorway. I didn't see Velshara move. One moment she was beside me. The next, her blade was through his throat and she was using his body as a shield against the plasma fire erupting from his squad. The body jerked with impacts meant for her. She discarded it with the casual efficiency of someone shrugging off a coat. Suppressing fire, she commanded. Northeast corner. 3-round bursts. Do not aim to kill. I fired where she indicated. My round sparked off the metal framework, creating a strobe effect that made the corridor entrance a nightmare of shadows and muzzle flashes. The enemy soldiers scattered, seeking cover that didn't exist. Velshara was already among them. I'd seen combat footage. I'd trained with Krithian advisors. I thought I understood how they fought. I was wrong. Footage didn't capture the sheer presence of it. The way she moved wasn't fast, it was inevitable. A soldier raised his weapon and she was already past where he was aiming, her blade opening his armor like paper. Another tried to flank her and found her secondary hands had deployed a sidearm I hadn't known she carried. The shot took him in the joint where his helmet met his neckpiece. Chen. Her voice was perfectly calm despite the carnage. Tactical display. Activate emergency broadcast protocol. Authorization, Velshara 9 Crimson. I stumbled to the console, my hands shaking. The interface was Krithian design, but I'd studied it during my assignment prep. I found the protocol and activated it. Broadcasting what? My voice. She caught an enemy blade on her armored forearm and redirected it into its wielder's chest. I am going to issue a challenge. The enemy commander is monitoring all channels. He will not be able to resist. She stepped over the bodies, back into the light of the bridge, and faced the viewport. Blood streaked her armor, none of it hers. She raised one primary hand in a gesture I recognized from Krithian diplomatic footage. A formal salute to an equal opponent. Then she spoke in the enemy's language. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. It was the same tone she'd used with me earlier. Calm. Cold. But underneath it, there was something else. Something that made my spine ice over. She was mocking them. The broadcast crackled. A voice responded, harsh and aggressive. Velshara listened, then replied with a single phrase. Whatever she said made the voice on the other end explode into rage. What did you tell him? I asked. That he has already lost this engagement, and if he wishes to salvage any honor, he should come face me personally while his remaining soldiers flee. She glanced at me. He will not flee. His culture values personal glory above tactical sense. He will come, and when he does, you will shoot him in the back while I occupy his attention. I blinked. That's not very honorable. No. She turned fully to face me. It is not. But honor is a luxury we exchange for the lives of our crew. Those pods are still 3 minutes from jump distance. We need 3 more minutes. If that costs me honor, I will pay that price gladly. Will you? I looked at this alien commander, covered in enemy blood, asking me to help her commit what her culture would consider a profound betrayal of combat ethics. All to save people she'd probably never even spoken to. Engineers, medical staff, junior officers. Yes, Commander. Good. He will enter through the western breach. It provides the most dramatic sightline. His ego requires theater. When he begins his challenge speech, he will be focused entirely on me. You will be behind the navigation console. You will have 1 shot before his guards realize what is happening. Make it count, and if I miss, then we both die and the pods escape anyway. She settled into a ready stance. But you will not miss. Your profile indicated exceptional performance under pressure. I trust the data. You're betting your life on a psychological profile? I am betting both our lives on your competence, Guardsman Shen. There is a difference, her eyes fixed on the western breach. He is coming. Get into position. I moved behind the console, my rifle steady despite the adrenaline screaming through my system. Through the scope, I watched the breach. Shadows moved in the corridor beyond. Heavy footsteps. The enemy commander was larger than his soldiers, his armor decorated with trophies from previous battles. He stepped onto the bridge like he owned it. He was massive. 8 feet tall, his armor ornate and clearly customized for both protection and intimidation. He carried a blade that looked more like a cleaver, its edge glowing with some kind of energy field. Behind him, 4 elite guards took positions at the entrance. He spoke. His voice boomed through the bridge, amplified by his armor systems. Velshara stood perfectly still, letting him finish his speech. Then she laughed. It wasn't a human laugh. It was the clicking, chittering sound Krithians made when expressing dark amusement. The enemy commander stopped mid-gesture, shocked that his dramatic challenge had been met with mockery. Velshara spoke again, in his language. Whatever she said made him roar in fury. He charged. Velshara didn't move until he was 3 steps away. Then she sidestepped with that impossible fluid grace, her blade flashing out to score a line across his armor. Not deep.
Not disabling.
Enraging. He spun, faster than something that size should move, his cleaver coming down where her head had been. She was already elsewhere, circling, her secondary hands deploying that hidden sidearm again. She fired twice into his guards, dropping one and wounding another. "Shen," she said calmly, as if we were discussing weather, "now would be ideal." I fired. The round took the enemy commander in the back of his knee joint. His armor was weaker there, designed for mobility. He crashed to the deck with a scream of rage and pain. His guards rushed forward, but Velshara was already moving. She killed the wounded one with her blade, used his falling body to shield herself from the other's fire, and threw something small and metallic at the remaining 2. The explosion was concussive, not fragmentation. It knocked them back without killing them. Velshara was on them before they recovered, her blade working with clinical precision. The enemy commander was trying to rise. I put another round into his other knee. Velzera stood over him, her blade at his throat. She spoke to him quietly. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw his eyes widen, then narrow with understanding, then close with something that might have been respect. She ended him quickly. The bridge fell silent, except for the sound of failing systems and distant explosions. Velshara cleaned her blade on the commander's cape and sheathed it in one smooth motion. Status of the evacuation pods? I checked the console. Jump distance in 40 seconds. They're going to make it. Excellent. She walked to the viewport, looking out at the battle beyond. Our work here is complete. Commander, how do we get out? The same way we've done everything else today, Guardsman Chen. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something almost like warmth in those alien eyes. Together. The escape route Velshara had planned involved climbing through a debris field, crawling through a service tunnel that was 90% exposed to vacuum, and timing our jump to a rescue shuttle with a margin of error measured in seconds. "This is insane," I said, checking the seals on my emergency suit. "This is calculated," she corrected, adjusting her own equipment with her 4 hands working in perfect coordination. "Insanity implies random chance. I have accounted for every variable." "What about the variable where we both die horribly in space?" "Accounted for. Probability is 11%. Acceptable for our current circumstances." She finished her preparations and looked at me. "Are you afraid, Guardsman Chen?" "Terrified, Commander." "Good. Fear is useful if channeled properly. It sharpens reaction time and heightens awareness. Come." She led me through the dying ship. Emergency lighting flickered and failed. Gravity generators struggled to maintain consistency. We passed bodies of both allies and enemies, and Velshara paused at each of our own fallen, touching them briefly with one hand, a Krithian gesture of respect. "Did you know them?" I asked. "Every name, every face, every next of kin." She straightened from the body of a young officer. "That is the burden of command. You send people to die, and you remember exactly who they were when you did it." We reached the service tunnel. Through the rent in the hull, I could see stars and the distant flashes of ongoing combat. Our fleet was retreating. The enemy was pursuing. But they were pursuing away from the escape pods. "They took the bait," I said. "They did what their doctrine demanded. We did what ours required." Velshara activated her suit's magnetic boots. The tunnel is 17 meters. Halfway through, there is a gap of 4 meters where the hull has completely separated. We will need to jump that gap in zero gravity with limited maneuvering thrust. Have you done this before?
No.
That's not reassuring, Commander.
I am not here to reassure you, Guardsman.
I am here to get us both to that shuttle alive. She started into the tunnel. Follow my exact path. My steps have been calculated based on structural integrity scans I performed 3 hours ago. 3 hours ago? You planned this? I planned 17 different evacuation scenarios when we first detected the enemy fleet. This was scenario 12. Moderate probability, high risk, maximum crew survival. Her voice echoed in my helmet comm. Now stop talking and start walking. We have 4 minutes. The tunnel was a nightmare. Jagged metal edges reached out like claws. Exposed power conduits sparked and died. Through the gaps in the hull, I could see the enemy ship that had attacked us drifting closer, probably looking for salvage or survivors to capture. Velshara moved with absolute certainty, her magnetic boots clicking rhythmically against the metal. I followed, trying to match her pace. Behind us, I heard the groan of stressed metal. The ship was beginning its final collapse. Commander, we need to move faster. We need to move precisely. Fast and dead are not preferable to slow and alive. She reached the gap and stopped. Here. This is the critical moment. I looked across the 4-meter void. On the other side, more tunnel. Beyond that, the docking port where our shuttle waited. 4 meters. In gravity, nothing. In vacuum, with limited thrust. Potentially fatal. I will go first, Velshara said. Watch my trajectory and replicate it exactly. Do not improvise. Do not adjust mid-flight. Trust the numbers. And if the numbers are wrong, then we will die having trusted something concrete, rather than living having trusted nothing at all. She crouched, her suit's thrusters priming. 3 seconds. She jumped. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Her forearms spread for balance, her body rotating precisely to align with the far side. Thrusters fired in controlled bursts. She landed perfectly, magnetic boots locking her to the metal. Your turn, guardsman. I took a breath. Crouched. Jumped. For a moment I was flying. The stars wheeled around me. I saw the battle in the distance, our ships retreating in good order, the enemy pursuing but not catching up. I saw the enemy vessel drifting past below, close enough to see crew moving behind viewports. Then my trajectory started to drift. I jumped slightly wrong. Some tiny difference in how I'd crouched, how I'd released. I was going to miss the far side by at least a meter. Thrusters, Velshara's voice was sharp in my helmet. 3/4 burn. Port side.
Now, I fired.
The burst was harder than I'd intended. I spun, disoriented. Counter thrust. Starboard. Half burn. I obeyed. The spin slowed. Stopped. Forward thrust. Full burn. I could see it. The angle was wrong. Commander, I can't... Something grabbed my arm. Velshara had jumped back into the void. Her magnetic boots were disengaged. She was flying, one hand gripping the tunnel edge, her body extended at full length, her other primary hand locked around my wrist. Reel? She commanded. Her suits integrated, winch activated. It pulled her back toward the tunnel edge, and because she had me, it pulled me too. We crashed into the far side together, magnetic boots engaging, holding us fast. For a moment, neither of us spoke. You jumped back for me, I finally said. Incorrect. I executed a calculated maneuver to retrieve a falling asset. But her grip on my wrist didn't loosen immediately. Can you continue? Yes, Commander. Then do so. We have 90 seconds. We made it to the docking port with 30 seconds to spare. The shuttle was automated, already cycling its launch sequence. We climbed aboard, sealed the hatch, and strapped in as the ship detached from the dying hulk. Through the viewport, I watched my first assignment burn. Emergency venting atmosphere created jets of frozen gas. Internal explosions rippled through the hull. The enemy ship moved away, apparently deciding the wreck wasn't worth salvaging. They're letting it go, I said. They are letting what they believe is a worthless hulk go, Velshara corrected. They do not know that the command codes and intelligence data they sought were purged 11 minutes ago. They do not know that the crew they hope to capture is already en route to safety. They believe they won a battle. They do not realize they lost an engagement. The shuttle's engines fired, pushing us away from the debris field. Automated navigation took over, plotting a course to rendezvous with the recovery fleet. Velshara began removing her suit. Her armor beneath was still stained with enemy blood. Guardsman Chen. Yes, Commander. In the next 48 hours, you will be debriefed by intelligence services. They will ask you detailed questions about everything that occurred. You will answer truthfully. Of course. They will ask you about my actions. about the honorability of our tactics, about whether I behaved in accordance with Krithian military ethics. She looked at me directly. What will you tell them? I thought about the bridge, the enemy commander, the shot to his back. I'll tell them you saved the lives of every person on those escape pods. I'll tell them you accomplished the mission with minimal casualties and maximum efficiency. I'll tell them that serving under your command was an honor, even though I asked you to violate the rules of honorable combat. Commander, with respect, I'm human. We don't have the same honor codes you do. From my perspective, you did exactly what needed to be done. You were terrifying, yes. But you were terrifying on behalf of people who needed someone terrifying protecting them. She was quiet for a long moment. You understand, she finally said, that this is why humans are both valued and feared among the Krithian Dominion. Your ability to adapt ethics to circumstance. Your willingness to do what is necessary rather than what is proper. It makes you unpredictable. Dangerous? Is that why you chose me for your guard detail? I chose you because your profile indicated you would understand when protocol must bend without breaking, that you would trust me when trust was required, that you would shoot when shooting was necessary. Her eyes glinted in the shuttle's dim light, and because I suspected that if I ever needed someone to watch my back while I did something terrible, you would not judge me for it afterward. I won't, Commander. I know. She settled back in her seat, closing her eyes. That is what makes you terrifying too, Guardsman Chen, in your own way. We flew in silence toward the recovery fleet. Behind us, my first ship died in flames. Ahead, somewhere in the dark, the war continued. And between those 2 points, I sat across from an alien queen commander who had just shown me exactly what it meant to lead. She was right. It was terrifying. But it was also the most honest thing I'd ever witnessed. When we docked with the recovery fleet 6 hours later, Velshara was met with formal honors. The crew who'd escaped in the pods lined the docking bay, standing at attention. As she passed, each one touched their chest in salute. She returned each gesture individually. I started to follow her toward the command briefing, but she stopped me with a gesture. Guardsman Chen, your assignment to my detail was temporary, scheduled for 6 hours. That period is ended. You are free to return to standard duty rotation. Something in my chest tightened. Understood, Commander, however. She turned fully toward me. I am authorized to select a permanent personal guard. The position requires absolute discretion, unwavering loyalty, and the ability to function in extreme circumstances without hesitation. It also requires a willingness to witness actions that may conflict with conventional morality and to support those actions when they serve the greater good. I met her alien gaze. Are you offering me the position, Commander? I am informing you that if you wish it, it is yours. No one would question my selection. Your performance today exceeded all expectations. She paused. But you should understand what you would be accepting. You would see more days like today. More impossible choices. More moments where the right thing and the proper thing are not the same thing. You would carry that weight with me. I thought about the escape pods. 40 pods full of people who were alive because this terrifying alien commander had been willing to compromise her honor to save them. I thought about her jumping back into the void to catch me when I'd missed my trajectory. I thought about how she'd remembered every fallen crew member's name. Commander, I accept. For the first time, I saw Velshara smile. It was a Krithian expression, subtle but unmistakable. Very well. Report to my quarters at 0600 tomorrow. We have much to discuss and a war to win. She started to turn away, then paused. And Guardsman Chen? Yes, Commander. Thank you. For shooting when I asked, for trusting when it mattered, for not judging me when you had every right to. Her voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. Command is lonely. It is more bearable when shared with someone who understands. She walked away, forearms swinging in perfect rhythm, her posture regal despite the exhaustion I knew she must feel. The crew parted for her like water around a blade. I stood there in the docking bay, my rifle still slung across my back, my hands still shaking slightly from adrenaline. I'd started this day as a junior guardsman on a temporary assignment. I was ending it as the personal guard to one of the Krithian Dominion's most decorated and controversial commanders, someone I'd thought I understood until I'd served beside her, someone who'd shown me that true leadership meant being willing to be the monster so your people didn't have to be, someone who was, without question, the most terrifying being I'd ever encountered, and someone I would follow into hell itself without hesitation. Because I'd learned something today that no training could teach. Something fundamental about what it meant to serve under someone who valued results over reputation, lives over honor, and effectiveness over propriety. I'd learned that sometimes the most terrifying commanders are terrifying precisely because they care too much to let rules and protocols stand between them and keeping their people alive. Velshara disappeared around a corner, heading toward the command deck where admirals and strategists waited to debrief her, where they would question her tactics and her choices, where she would face judgment for every decision she'd made. She would face it alone, as she always did. But tomorrow, at 0600, she wouldn't be alone anymore. I straightened my uniform, checked my rifle one final time, and headed toward my temporary quarters. I had a lot to prepare. New responsibilities, new expectations, a new understanding of what service truly meant. And somewhere in my chest, beneath the exhaustion and the fading adrenaline, I felt something unexpected, pride. Not because I'd survived an impossible situation, but because I'd been chosen by someone who had seen me at my worst, trusted me at my weakest, and decided I was worthy of standing beside her when everything fell apart. The ship's intercom crackled to life. The captain's voice echoed through the corridors. "All hands, this is Captain Relmouth. I want to personally acknowledge the extraordinary courage displayed by Queen Commander Velshara and her guard detail during today's engagement. Their actions saved 417 lives and preserved critical intelligence assets. The Dominion honors their service. 417 people. I'd helped save 417 people today by shooting an enemy commander in the back while he was engaged in honorable combat. I waited for the guilt to come, the moral uncertainty, the questioning of whether we'd done the right thing. It didn't come. Instead, I felt certain, clear, resolved. Because I'd seen Velshara's face when those escape pods launched. I'd heard the relief in her voice when they reached jump distance. I'd watched her honor every fallen crew member by name. She hadn't compromised her honor carelessly. She'd sacrificed it deliberately, knowingly, painfully, so they could live. That was leadership. That was courage. That was why I would serve her for as long as she'd have me. I reached my quarters and sealed the door behind me. Through the small viewport, I could see the recovery fleet forming up, preparing to jump to a safer system. Somewhere out there, in 47 different escape pods, 417 people were doing the same thing I was. Breathing, living, going home. Because one terrifying alien commander had decided their lives mattered more than her reputation. I set my rifle aside and sat on the bunk. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new missions, new impossible situations where the right choice wouldn't be the proper one. But I'd face them beside someone who knew exactly what those choices cost, and who was willing to pay that price anyway. I closed my eyes and let the exhaustion take me. My last thought before sleep claimed me was simple. I never knew how terrifying the alien Queen Commander was until I served her alone. And now that I knew, I wouldn't serve anyone else.